So John's cooking hot and spicy for us. That's what we know this current panel for Morning View as.
Yes.
Hot and spicy, Gyles Alison.
Can I say something about you that I didn't know before? You went to Birmingham University.
I did, yes.
Where there is a man called Baggs who many years ago gave Birmingham University a lot of money to have an annual happiness lecture.
Is that right?
And Birmingham University takes happiness very seriously. And I think it may explain a lot about you. Every year, for about 70 years, they've had somebody come and think about happiness. I think the first person who gave the lecture was the great Sir Yehudi Menuhin.
Oh, wow.
The great virtuoso violinist. And they believe that we need to be happy and to be positive. And I think that explains the way you are. Because in quite a dark world, being positive can be quite challenging.
Well, it was a very happy time on Saturday. That celebration was fabulous. It makes perfect sense to me because I think I had an amazing time at university and there was such joy there and celebration. It was lovely to be back in the city. Where it's perhaps not quite so happy and joyous, though, Alison, is our first story regarding the US attacks on Iran. Keir Starmer, of course, warning against escalation in the Middle East. Lots of our viewers will have been over the weekend and this morning waking up just wondering what this actually means for Great Britain.
Absolutely. So we all woke up yesterday morning to the news that the Americans had begun airstrikes on Iran, and also particularly on the facility where they believed that they were getting to the point of creating a nuclear bomb. Now, the issue is that Iran will say, we don't want to make a nuclear bomb, we weren't doing that, but the Americans and the Israelis have become quite convinced that they were, and that was why they felt they needed to strike, because Iran has previously said in the past that they wanted to take Israel off the face of the planet, so that they had to act at this point. What we don't know is what happens next. There's so many things we don't know. We don't know whether, in fact, the Iranians managed to move some of their enriched uranium, which is what they need to make nuclear bombs, so they could still have that capacity. We don't know if there are going to be repercussions. And we don't know if, though, the Iranians might come to the negotiating table and say, OK, that's it, we give up all our nuclear weapons, or plans to make nuclear weapons, at which point things might calm down. But they may not. The Americans might come back.
Is that though, Alison?
Very unlikely, because the Iranians are very, very angry. They think that they're saying that it was an illegal strike, and that there will be repercussions for the Americans.
It's grim. It's tough.
It really is.
The hope is that these, actually, 3 sites were located. Donald Trump, in typical style, says it was a tremendous success. We've obliterated these sites completely. Nobody yet knows whether that's true or not, but certainly damage has been done to their potential for developing uranium. So it could end, and they could be literally bombed back to the negotiating table to agree. But they have actually said, the Iranians, there will be repercussions. So what these repercussions will be, nobody knows. They're likely to be something within the region. There are many American air bases out in that part of the world which they could reach and target. It is not likely to be affecting us in this country, we hope.
But concerns of sleeper cells around the world that could wreak havoc close to home or in America, wherever, Alison, as well.
I mean, without doubt, this is going to increase the likelihood of some kind of terror attack. You know, I'm not saying that to frighten people, but that's kind of a reality, that there will be some response. And at that point, the other issue, of course, is at the moment, Britain is kind of keeping slightly out of it. We're sort of saying, well, let's de-escalate. The Prime Minister saying, let's calm it all down. But at the same time, doesn't want to go into any kind of conflict with President Trump. So if there are more strikes from the Americans and President Trump wants to see kind of backing from Britain, then that gets quite tricky for us.
We are out of it, in the sense that we were not involved. We did not know about it. We were told that it was going to be happening, apparently, as it was happening, but we were not involved in any way in it.
Interestingly, there's already been an impact for us here because flights from London to Dubai and Doha have been cancelled by British Airways. Flights from Heathrow to Dubai was forced to divert to Zurich on Saturday night. Simon Calder's going to be here a little bit later on to talk about what this might mean for your travel. So any questions, do get in touch. So it's already having repercussions on the infrastructure of what's happening here in the UK. Those flights through Doha and through Dubai to get to the other side of the world are really intrinsic routes, aren't
And
they?
it will have an effect on us, for example, if they decide that there's a strait that they could close, the Iranians, where a lot of the world's oil goes through. If they close that, it have repercussions for the oil price around the world, and that will affect us. So it certainly will have some impact on us. But to be positive about it, the world, the free world, has been saying for years, Iran must not be allowed to develop nuclear weapons. And it's clear that they have been developing their uranium way beyond the amount needed for domestic civil use of nuclear power. So something has been going on. They've been doing it in hidden sites. What has been going on? This will certainly have dented their capacity for doing that. So that's what the free world has wanted.
Yeah.
And it's now happened. Whether it should have happened by negotiation instead of these bomb attacks is a matter for debate.
OK, let's move from the biggest news story to a newsreader who's made headlines after she changed her scripted auto cue on air, which had referred to pregnant people, changing it to pregnant women. Take a look.
London's School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine has released research which says that nearly 600 heat-related deaths are expected in the UK. Malcolm Mystery, who was involved in the research, says that the aged, pregnant people, women, and those with pre-existing health conditions need to take precaution.
So, Alison, what do you think? Do you think newsreaders should remain impartial, or that was clearly changed on the fly?
Martine Croxall.
Yeah.
Well, I think for the BBC particularly, for all newsrooms, but particularly for the BBC, there is a real requirement for objectivity, because I think when we live at a time where there's so much mistrust in the media, you need a few places, particularly in broadcast, you know, ITN and BBC, where you feel you're getting a completely straight reading of events. Now, it could be that the way that the script was written in the first place wasn't correct. But the question then becomes, is it up to the newsreader to change it at that point? Or should they just repeat what they've been told?
What impressed me was that she was reading it for the first time. I somehow thought, indeed, I've been in various news studios. My wife used to be a newsreader. She always read it carefully beforehand to get pronunciations of difficult names. That's the nightmare. A difficult name's coming up, got to get through it, and then you make a mistake on the next name, curiously. You get through the first one.
Always. And you see it coming and you're like, oh,
So the truth is, what you should have done is go through the script and say, I'm not comfortable with that line. Do you think that's correct? Is that right? And check it with the editor. Because the truth is, the news reader is there to read the news. Quite different when you have people coming expressing opinions, etc. That's a different role. And there are certain channels now that exist that come with an agenda. But if you are the British Broadcasting Corporation, paid for virtually by the taxpayer, you have no choice if you have a television set, you want to watch TV, you have to pay the licence fee, then there is a responsibility on the news readers to read the news as it has been editorially agreed.
So we've tried to find out whether there is a BBC directive about this, and we can't. We don't think it is a BBC directive. What it feels like it may have been, watching it and having been in scenarios where you're reading this, it feels like a press release has been lifted by somebody somewhere, put into the script, and the newsreader has come to it. And sometimes, unfortunately, these days, when you're on a 24-hour rolling news, it changes. You don't have time to read the scripts up front, so you have to go with it. And it's just the press release that had come from this place that she's ended up reading and then has corrected, or she has changed the word herself. That feels like maybe it's happened, Alison. And as she's read it, she's caught that phrase, and clearly, I think there's a sense that you can see that she changes it, and then there's a sort of resignation because she understands that that's going to have a bigger impact. And when J.K. Rowling suddenly posts, I think I have a new favourite BBC presenter, then that sort of weaponises it as well, doesn't it? Yeah.
I mean, what she perhaps could have done, and I know she was doing all this in a split second, is she could have said, pregnant people, well, women, and carried on. But the fact that the intonation was such that made a political point from it, which I think is the bit that the BBC should be trying to avoid.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Right, let's move on to our next story. Here's another interesting question for you. If you are a prisoner in one of Britain's highest security prisons, should you be allowed to keep pets, Gyles?
Yes. More than 50 years ago, I visited Strangeways Prison in Manchester when I was a young person interested in prison reform, and I met a prisoner who had a pet rat. I'm sorry to say it was a Victorian prison. There were rats in the prison, but he had managed to tame one, and he was keeping it in his cell as a pet rat. And the officers told me we allowed this to happen because, in fact, it's calmed the man down. He's now looking after the pet. And there's a serious issue here. I mean, people are in prison. Most of them will be coming out at some stage. So the more normalised they can be, the better. And actually, not thinking about yourself, but focusing on a pet, whether it's a bird, or whether it's a tortoise, as an example here, I think is rather a good thing. Caring about somebody else, taking an interest in something else. So I'm all in favour of it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, obviously people go to prison because we want to see them punished, but also we really need these people to be rehabilitated and to come out.
I often quote Winston Churchill. They go to prison as punishment, not for punishment. The punishment is the deprivation of liberty. We're not sending them in there to be punished within the prison. We're sending them in the prison...
For a lack of freedom.
For lack of freedom. And while they're in there, at least I want them to be as rehabilitated as they can be, to be trained for the life outside and to have as normal a life as possible.
Is there some
Not
concern as
becoming
well, though, Alison, that I guess, and I'm just sort of looking at this at what the negatives could be. If you're in a high-security prison, there's some quite violent people in there. Are these pets potentially more vulnerable from some sort of conflict that arises between the person that's got the pet and somebody else there? And I don't know.
Potentially. I mean, I think in this situation, the governor has to sort of say, yes, I think this person is well equipped to look after a pet. So that. But I guess there is still that possibility that somebody else might do something to the pet as some kind of awful retribution. But I think they look at this sort of quite long and hard before they make these decisions. And I think so often there's an instinctive thing to attack prison governors for the things they're doing. But if you are working in a prison and you're trying to keep order, it's so important to have incentives to make people behave well.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something else that could have done with looking a bit more carefully is the government and their rebranding. Have we got time for this? I'm not sure. Oh, we do. Yeah.
We do. Okay.
How right you are to check with the editorial team. You are here to represent the agreed line.
Exactly.
We don't want you taking your own views.
No. Whatever you do, don't go ahead. Do you want to share this one? Because I think this is
Go
hilarious.
on, then. The government has spent more than £500,000 of taxpayers' money on a vanity makeover for the government website, which critics say is little more than a changing a colour and moving a dot. OK, so let's have a look at the old one.
This is the old logo?
This is the old
Very
logo.
dark.
Very dark.
But classic,
Slightly
classic.
drab.
Oh.
Yeah, lovely.
Can
Beautiful.
you spot the difference?
Oh, literally the spot, the
Yes.
dot.
Well, the dot,
In
yeah.
Nigel Farage teal as well, that's got, hasn't it?
Oh, Lord.
Now, how much would you have paid for that, Giles, do you think?
Well, I would have done it for a £5 as part of my pro bono contribution to the country.
Yes.
And indeed, maybe, I mean, they've obviously spent, an agency has become involved. Every company is doing this, constantly updating their, logo.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally over the years, the This Morning logo has developed and evolved.
Sure.
Yes.
But it's a commercial organisation here. Here we are actually at a time when we're saving every penny we can, where, for example, we're talking about prisons, there's a shortage of prison places. Do we want to be spending £500,000 on this makeover?
So I think it was commissioned by the last
Yeah.
Conservative government.
Oh, yeah.
Your lot, and now it's now come to fruition. But I think also, to be fair, there was other kind of development of the website stuff that's gone on sort of behind the scenes.
There's some very famous moments of rebranding of very well-known brands over the years that haven't necessarily gone according to plan. Jaguar had a rebrand recently. Let's have a look at the old... There's the old one.
Oh.
Yes.
And there's the new
Oh,
version.
no.
Oh,
Yes.
they lost the cat.
No.
Yes.
finally.
And
It's not a cat,
didn't
it's a
know.
Jaguar.
You know what I mean.
But look, this looks like a bit of knitwear, doesn't it? Looks like
Oh, yes.
Jaeger.
Yeah, exactly. But seriously, it's confusing me.
They're mixing capitals and little letters as well, aren't they? That's Jaguar. My favourite was the Aberdeen Asset Management. This was theirs.
Yeah, the old.
Very well known. And then they just removed all the E's.
Oh, for
yes.
goodness
They
gracious.
had a lot of heat for this, didn't they? People were very cross about it.
Yes. They prompted a return to the
I
original.
think they had to put the vowels back in.
You've got to put the vowels back.
Aberdeen.
And then Twitter, of course. Twitter, which was so well known as Twitter, and it felt like a really good fit. But Elon Musk wanted to rebrand it known as X.
But when you look at those things, that's the difference between the lovely bright blue sky and something very dark in it.
But that's the opposite of what we've done, isn't it? If the
Yeah.
government-
We've got... yes, so
we've gone the other way.
The government have gone the other way.
Yeah,
Interesting stuff.
Let's talk about Prince Harry now. Prince Harry is planning to reach out to his family by inviting them to the 2027 Invictus Games. We've just had one previously.
That's quite a long invite, isn't it? Then giving them a run-up to it.
Well, then they can't be too busy, can they? And the fact that it's in Birmingham as well
it's
means
not
it's very close. So they can't be too busy.
It's not too
and
far.
it's close. Are they going to say yes?
We're hardly rushing this rapprochement, are we? Oh, my goodness. I don't know where this story comes from, but apparently we are being told that the Duke of Sussex, who founded this wonderful scheme, Invictus Games...
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I mean, it's a really great thing. Much admired, I know, by the King, and I'm sure supported by him. And apparently, according to the Mail on Sunday, who really got their finger on the pulse there, 3 years down the line... Is it 3 years?
Two.
Or 2 years down the line, they're going to invite the King and Prince William along with the Prince of Wales. He should be so lucky as to get them, of course, because I think they would actually add great lustre to this. So I no doubt how sensible he is. He's written a letter, maybe, saying, "Dear Pa, I'm doing this thing in 2 years' time. If you can fit it in, I'd be so grateful.
But, they're saying, well, surely they're about to make it because it's 2 years warning and it's only in Birmingham.
Yeah.
I think it might clash with Camilla's 80th birthday.
When's her birthday?
So they may not be able to make it anyway. Sorry.
Well, maybe that's why they're trying to get in early.
Her birthday is only one day.
Yes.
And if they're free, I'm sure they would like to.
Well, and also Birmingham's a wonderful place, as I know, to celebrate a birthday, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's the home of happiness.
It's the home of happiness.
Yes.
It would be if they could all get back together as well. Wouldn't that be lovely? If it is the moment that allows them to reconnect.
But
would be
perhaps they
great.
should try and do something a little bit sooner.
I think, to be serious for a
Rush
moment,
these things.
to be serious for a moment, the reason there is anxiety, I think, is that the senior royals don't feel confident that if they do communicate, it won't necessarily get out into the public domain.
Right.
We get all these stories that are sort of leaked to us. We don't. This may or
This
may
is
not.
a source told.
We don't know whether this is true or not true. It
No.
doesn't really matter one way or the other. It's fun to discuss.
Yeah.
But if you are the King or the Prince of Wales and you think, actually, I'm going to write, we would like a reconciliation, and then you've written and made that overture, it's a private family matter, and then you find it appears in the Mail on Sunday, you think, that makes it awkward. So I think that is the sort of background to why it hasn't happened yet.
Let's talk about things that are, on similar lines, very serious. Alison, are you a slicer or a grater? Slice.
Are we talking cheese?
When it comes to cheese, yes. I'm not sure what you thought I was thinking. Gyles, do you grate or do you slice into your sandwiches?
I like to grate, but I'm such a poor grater that I graze my knuckles.
Oh,
But
little bit of extra
going
flavour.
right down to the bottom, and those flecks of blood within the cheese are not a good thing. But there has been a survey done. Some study has been made on whether, when you're making your sandwich, you are better off using sliced. I do use those slices.
Oh, do you?
Yes,
use
I quite like those.
And do you know what I do?
What do you do?
Perfect.
I use, well, for a start, I use brown bread.
Not messing around, Katie, but they are hardly the most attractive-looking sandwiches.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean,
Can I say,
Tell you what, I'd love a bowl
once
of
in a
Heinz
while, an
seafood.
Buxton
old-fashioned...
pickle.
no, but here's the point, though. So
this is all falling out.
That's why it's
This
bad.
is an insignificant, insubstantial sandwich.
And can I say, it's so finely grated, it looks like dandruff, old-school dandruff.
Yeah, or sawdust or something.
And you lose some of the flavour.
Do you?
I think so, yes.
Well, there's also more surface area, so the air gets to it and dries out quicker, I think. I prefer a
Apparently, Dr. Nasuda Sumansiri, who was a lecturer in food science and television at Teesside University, said sliced cheese better retains structure and provides a more even mouthfeel. For a cold sandwich, sliced cheese is generally preferable.
And it's easier to do, and there are now little bits of paper in between the slices. I'm keeping the paper and using the paper as a bookmark.
You are greasy.
Yes, I know. I'm drying it, and there's got a...
No,
I am, seriously.
No, I'm not.
I'm sorry, we've got to recycle everything. I'm really ahead of the curve here.
So you're very much into recycling. What about when it comes to your underwear, Gyles?
Now, this is the most
that's enough
shocking
to put you
story
off the
any of us
cheese
has read.
sandwich, that
I'm
is.
sorry, put down the cheese.
Alison's just taken a big mouthful.
Apparently, a third of men in a survey admit they don't wear a fresh pair of undies every day. 9% say they go 7 days before changing theirs.
A third.
A third...
And
Shocking.
it gets worse. 1 in 50 can wait 2 months before
hold
changing
on.
their pants.
I'm just
Shall we
taking
do
a
a
straw
survey?
poll. Hannah, can you just spin around and show how many male members of staff, all the cameramen, assistants?
Yeah.
We've got Carl, we've got Tom,
no.
you've got Simon, you've got Darren there. I know Darren's got clean underwear on because he's been here around for so long. He's been changing his underwear since the dinosaurs. But that means that how many of these... Statistically...
So, I'm not very good on statistics. So, if 1 in 10 wait a week, how many men do we think we've got here? About
We've got
15?
6, yeah.
That's 1.5 of them, I think.
So which one of you is the defender? It could be Carl. He's a Brighton fan.
What do you think? Should I go and do a sniff test?
No!
Please. But we've got to bear in mind, always with the survey, where the survey comes from. 2001 men were interviewed by the Astonish cleaning brand. So we do have a slight vested interest for encouraging cleanliness. But cleanliness is next to godliness. You should change your underwear every 24 hours.
Is that a public service announcement to the
It is.
nation?
Yes.
There looks like some incriminating talk between the floor managers over there. Actually, it might be Simon might be the one that hasn't changed. I'm not sure. Not sure. No, he's looking very guilty. No, not Simon on camera 3. Simon, the floor manager over
Don't
there.
be Simon.
You can tell, look,
Mixed
Simon,
up
the floor
when it comes
manager.
to
He's there.
pants.
There he is.
Go on, Bennett.
Gyles and Alison, thank you.
Thank
Lovely
you.
to have you
Thank
here.
you
Thank
so
you
much.
for
Right, next,
visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out, and we'll see you in the morning.